Here is Republican Congressman Glenn Grothman from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. He's a Republican. He's a despicable human being, always has been. He's against the new bill because it didn't get rid of public housing. He is opposed to all public housing because he's a racist and he wants work requirements. The Wisconsin congressman wants work requirements in order to live in public housing because he claims public housing destroys the family. You know, as opposed to living out on the streets, which brings families together, but just for the warmth, because those streets get awfully cold in Sheboygan, Wisconsin during the winter. Here is the horrible, despicable, repulsive, and putrid Republican congressman from Wisconsin, Glenn Grothman.
But they left low-income housing untouched. I think as far as discouraging work and discouraging marriage, I think low-income housing is even a more dangerous program than the food stamps. So I'm including low-income housing in the mix of having work requirements. The amendment as drafted just includes Section 8 housing, which is an error on my part because there are other low-income housing as well. But that's what we have before us. I would appreciate it if you let that to the floor because I don't think our team fought on the low-income housing front at all.
So that is what Republicans really believe. He's a far-right extremist, but he's speaking what even Kevin McCarthy believes, that there should not only be work requirements to live in public low-income housing, but there shouldn't be low-income housing. It should just be a Hobbesian nightmare for low-income Americans. He's a racist. He is a racist. And if this guy sounds familiar, I played a clip of him last week. I think it was Thursday. Now, last Thursday, while they were debating the debt ceiling, the very racist Congressman Grothman from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, they were debating the debt ceiling, but he decided to bring something else up. Besides the debt ceiling, he decided to complain about how hard it is these days for white guys who aren't gay.
A study was done a little while ago on the federal judiciary. I wish we had these studies for all other appointments by the Biden administration. And apparently his first 2 years, President Biden had appointed 97 federal judges. Of the 97 federal judges, I was expecting maybe 25 or 30 were white guys, because I know President Biden wasn't heavy on appointing more white guys. 5 of the 97 judges were white guys. Of those, 2 were gay. So almost impossible for a white guy who's not gay, apparently, to get appointed here.
That is the racist, homophobic Republican Congressman Glenn Grothman from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And if you see the C-SPAN chyron, you can ascertain that they are debating the federal spending and debt limit, but the racist, homophobic Republican Congressman Glenn Grothman from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, decided, let's talk about how tough it is for straight white guys. Very germane to the conversation, you racist. You know, it's hard to believe, but much of the antipathy towards social spending in America, much of the opposition to social spending is because racists like Glenn Grothman think the social spending goes only towards black people. When in fact, per capita, and you can Google this, per capita, white people are more likely to go on food stamps or welfare or public housing. They're going to need public housing and Medicaid. White people, per capita, are the bigger recipients of all the social programs, all the things that keep people alive. But that doesn't matter. The truth, as we've learned with Republicans, it doesn't matter. Republicans don't want to make their corporate donors pay taxes. That's why they're sent to Washington, D.C. So they want to cut social services. And they're sadistic. They go to satisfy the richest 1% and their bloodlust. They want to punish poor people. They get off on that because they're sexually dysfunctional. And people like Glenn Grothman, who's a lawyer, the best way to get low information voters on board cutting taxes and kicking people off Medicaid, food stamps, kicking them out of public housing or work requirements. The easiest way to do that with low information voters is convincing them that Black people are the largest recipients of government handouts. It's a lie. It's simply not true. But these low information voters want to believe it. They vote their hatred, they vote their racism, and of course they end up hurting themselves because the ones who believe this about Black people are the ones who need public housing, Medicaid, food stamps. It's a trick the devil plays on low information voters. Glenn Grothman is a lawyer. He's an idiot, but he knows what he's doing. He's a racist idiot. He isn't just against public housing. He's against the holiday that celebrates Martin Luther King. He's against Kwanzaa. This is who these people are. Glenn Grothman, says what you kind of use dog whistles to hide behind, but he's out in front. This is who the Republicans really are. It's who Kevin McCarthy is. Speaker McCarthy has alienated the far-right Freedom Caucus, who have been coiled like a snake in the grass, waiting for a moment like this to pounce, to lunge, to call a vote on replacing him. Remember, all it takes is one member of the Republican caucus to demand a vote on who should be Speaker. That's the concession McCarthy made in order to win the speakership. He has a lot of enemies in the Republican Party, in the House.